Hi, this is part 2 of learning Shenandoah. This is a classic folk song and it relieves anxiety because it is a really calming song and it's really beautiful and slow once you get into the music. And last video, Wyoming VA psychiatrist Sharla Anandan had talked about why it's really helpful for our anxiety. And in the last video, we learned the first verse, and that's the first thing we will go over this video. Another thing we talked about in the last video is breathing with your diaphragm. So our diaphragm is the muscle right here and it pulls down on our rib cage. And it's really important to breathing because it allows for the most air to be filled into you so that you can release it when you're singing. I stressed in the last video that it's really important to always be breathing with your diaphragm, and it goes for this video and all the other videos. It's particularly helpful with anxiety, as studies have shown, so that's why I always say you should breathe with your diaphragm. To begin, let's go over the first verse of Shenandoah, what we learned in the last video, and make sure you're using either the harder breathing or the easier breathing and not breathing in the middle of the word. So it's okay if you kind of use a combination of both, but again, just don't breathe in the middle of a word. Kind of go off of the easier one where we said that we would breathe and then incorporate it into the hard one if you aren't getting all of the breathing. Let's try the first verse. Oh, Shenandoah, I long to hear you. Oh, you rolling river. Oh, Shenandoah, I long to hear you. Away, I'm bound away, across the wide Missouri. Great job, hopefully you got it. If you're still a little bit shaky, go back to the last video, run through it a couple times so you really have it down, and then you can come back here and we can go on. But for those of you who have it, let's try the second verse. And the second verse is the exact same thing, but just different words. So the words are, 'tis 7 long years since last I saw you. Away, you rolling river. 'Tis 7 long years since last I saw you. Away, I'm bound away, across the wide Missouri. Since it's the same, we're just going to think about when they say, oh, Shenandoah, I long to hear you. We'll say, 'tis 7 long years since last I saw you. And then later on in the verse, they say, oh, Shenandoah, but instead of that, we'll say, 'tis 7 long years. So again, just remember, it's 'tis 7 long years since last I saw you. Away, you rolling river. 'Tis 7 long years since last I saw you. Away, I'm bound away, across the wide Missouri. So again, it's pretty simple. Why don't we try that, because it's just like one little word change. But again, 'tis 7 long years since last I saw you, instead of, oh, Shenandoah, I long to hear you. So let's try it. 'Tis 7 long years since last I saw you. Away, you rolling river. 'Tis 7 long years since last I saw you. Away, I'm bound away, across the wide Missouri. Okay, great job. And as for the breathing, we'll go for the harder version. 'Tis 7 long years since last I saw you. Breathe. Away, you rolling river. Breathe. 'Tis 7 long years since last I saw you. Breathe. Away, I'm bound away. Breathe. Across the wide Missouri. This would essentially just be breathing after every phrase or after every sentence that's completed. So again, it would be, 'tis 7 long years since last I saw you. Breathe. Away, you rolling river. Breathe. 'Tis 7 long years since last I saw you. Breathe. Away, I'm bound away. Breathe. Across the wide Missouri. So for the easier breathing, we will do, 'tis 7 long years, breathe, since last I saw you, breathe. Away, breathe, you rolling river, breathe. 'Tis 7 long years, breathe, since last I saw you, breathe, away, breathe, I'm bound away, breathe, cross the wide, breathe, misery. So again, easier breathing would be 'tis 7 long years, breathe, since last I saw you, breathe, away, breathe, you rolling river, breathe. 'Tis 7 long years, breathe, since last I saw you, breathe, away, breathe, I'm bound away, breathe, cross the wide, breathe, misery. So let's try the harder version. If you don't get that, then we can go to the easier version. So I'll say breathe every time we're supposed to breathe. And again, this is the harder version. If you need to incorporate a few breaths here and there, that's good too. 'Tis 7 long years since last I saw you. Breathe. Away, you rolling river. Breathe. 'Tis 7 long years since last I saw you. Breathe. Away, I'm bound away. Breathe. Cross the wide Missouri. Breathe. Now let's try the easier version. And again, I'll say breathe every time we're supposed to. If you didn't get the harder version completely or it was just not that good, then try the easier version. That'll probably be better for you. And you can make the choice and just kind of remember how to do each one. 'Tis 7 long years, breathe, since last I saw you. Breathe. Away, breathe, you rolling river. Breathe. 'Tis 7 long years, breathe, since last I saw you. Breathe. Away, breathe, I'm bound away. Breathe, cross the wide, breathe, Missouri. So you can make a choice between the two. And now let's just run through it once so you have it in your mind, and then we'll go on to the next verse, which is pretty simple too. So let's try it. 'Tis 7 long years since last I saw you. Away, you rolling river. 'Tis 7 long years since last I saw you. Away, I'm bound away, cross the wide Missouri. Great job, and now that you have it, we can go on to the next verse, which is the same exact thing as the first verse. So the last verse is exactly the same as the first. In the music, you are supposed to go up a half step, but for us, for people who might not have the music with them or they don't really care about going up a half step, then don't worry, we're just going to sing the last verse the same as the first. And so let's try it. Let's just try the first verse. Oh, Shenandoah, I long to hear you. Away, you rolling river. Oh, Shenandoah, I long to hear you. Away, I'm bound away, cross the wide Missouri. So great job. Now to end off, what we're gonna do is sing the first, the second, and the first again, because the first and the third are the same. So again, just really make sure you're doing the breathing properly. Make sure you have one hand on your stomach, one hand on your side or your back, but really make sure you're breathing with your diaphragm, you're following all of the breaths that I said, and you're really making sure that you know exactly where to breathe rather than just breathing wherever. This will really allow your anxiety to calm down because you're following deep breathing. It's really going to help you if you do. Why don't we try the whole song together? Oh, Shenandoah, I long to hear you. Oh, you rolling river. Oh, Shenandoah, I long to hear you. Away, I'm bound away, across the wide Missouri. 'Tis 7 long years since last I saw you. Away, you rolling river. 'Tis 7 long years since last I saw you. Away, I'm bound away, across the wide Missouri. Oh, Shenandoah, I long to hear you. Away, you rolling river. Oh, Shenandoah, I long to hear you. Away, I'm bound away, across the wide Missouri. Great job, you just completed the full song. If you need to, you can go back, just run through it a few times, just so you really know where to breathe and where not to breathe, and you're really making sure you're using your diaphragm. But great job, this is a beautiful piece, and I'm glad that you now know how to sing it. So thank you, and hopefully you go on to learn a few more songs.